Hello everybody and welcome to this week's phenomenal episode of the Being Politely Rebellious in Pompey video podcast. I know that I often introduce people by saying how legendary they are and by saying the legend. Now this is the legend, that is Alan Knight. How are you doing?
All good, yeah, not too bad. I'm always a little bit about the legend, but it's something that's
Got to embrace it. You've got to embrace it. Got to embrace that.
So, yeah.
What it is. I mean, how long were you a Pompey goalkeeper for? I mean, it was a long time. Were you like the longest reigning goalkeeper?
In respect of us at the club, and my career was about 23 to 25 years as a player.
That's incredible.
And I got the record for one club, goalkeeper for one club.
The longest reign.
Most games, yeah,
Wow.
801. I beat Peter Bonetti of Chelsea's record. So
was that a deliberate thing? Did you think, right, he's got this, I want to go and beat that record, or was it just accidental?
Accidental. I mean, the one to beat Peter, he was 601.
Yeah, okay.
And the reason for it in 800 was a little bit more manipulated. Alan Ball gave me 10 minutes at Blackburn to get 800, and then the 801 come completely out of the blue after I'd been retired really for a couple of years, and I had to come in when we had a goalkeeping emergency, and then I played my last game in 2000, just into 2000. So I managed to play in 4 decades technically.
That's incredible, isn't it?
I'm 110.
Get your birth certificate out, prove it. So early life for you. So you were born, was it London?
Balham, yeah, South London, yeah. Went to school, obviously Balham, Tooting. And then I used to train with QPR in Fulham as a 13-year-old. A scout asked me to come and have a trial here at Portsmouth just before my 14th birthday. So I come here. Ian St John was manager at the time. Youth team manager was Ray Crawford. Tony Barton, who went on to manage Aston Villa and win the European Cup as it was then, was the chief scout. So, yeah, I come and had a week's trial. They offered me schoolboy forms.
Yeah.
Because back then you could only sign for a club at 14 as a schoolboy.
Right.
And then you had 2 years before you went on and hopefully signed as an apprentice.
Right.
And if I'm brutally honest, I did go back, having been made that offer to QPR and Fulham, hoping that they would turn around and say, "Oh, don't sign for Portsmouth. We want you to." But they turned around and said, "No, good luck. Hope it all works out for you."
Pompey, yeah.
So, yeah, stayed for 20 odd. Well, now nearly 50 years later.
That's incredible, isn't it? And what was early life like for you in London? Did you enjoy growing up in that area? My mum and dad, working class. Yeah.
Dad was a plumber, ended up being a foreman for a building company in London. My mum was a dinner lady at the local infant school.
Yeah.
We didn't have a great deal of money, but early life was good. Played lots of football, obviously.
When did you realise you were good at football? Like different from, say, lads that were just knocking the ball around in the street?
That's a good question. When I first started was at Telford Scott School, my junior school, and they lined you up at PE to pick the teams, and because I was the tallest, they chucked me in goal. And then a few balls hit me on that day, and then I ended up in goal and used to play on Tooting Common with the lads at most evenings and what have you. So, I suppose I got sort of like scouted at school to play for Wandsworth and then inner London, and then, as I said, ended up at Portsmouth.
But so it was almost like an accidental thing, as opposed to you waking up one day as a small boy and going, "I want to be a goalkeeper. I want to play professional football."
It sort of just evolved. It was out of my hands. I wanted to play football. I loved playing football.
Yeah.
I was always getting told off because I'd be, as I say, top of the road was Tooting Common, and you had the railway embankment there, and I'd be kicking balls against the the embankment on my own, just catching balls as they rebounded off there. So I'd spend hours up there and I'd have to be dragged off. My mum would come up and grab me by my ear and
That's enough, boy.
drag me home for my tea, yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And so you were signed to Pompey at 14?
As a schoolboy, 14, then I signed as an apprentice at 16.
Wow. So did you move to Pompey when you were 14?
I used to play weekends in the South East counties, which is a youth league. So I used to come down at weekends and school holidays.
Yeah.
And I'd be down. I'd be in digs. And then I moved down full time as an apprentice at 16.
Yeah. And so would your mum or your dad have to come with you when you were like 14, 15?
They would drive me down and leave me, and then I'd go into digs, normally with other apprentices or players that maybe just staying down while they were moving house or whatever. But yeah, that was that was an interesting time because I did suffer from really bad homesickness.
Yeah,
to be honest, early on.
Yeah, it's quite young, isn't it?
Mm.
And then when you were 16, you moved down, like
16 into St Ronan's Avenue in Southsea.
Yeah.
There was some guest house there, and when I moved in, Chris Kamara was a just signed pro, I think. Then he had been an apprentice prior, so he was in my digs and a couple of other lads that were apprentices with me.
Yeah.
And then a great time for me. The club itself wasn't doing particularly great. And that first year in, I managed to made my debut in the first team last game of the season. We were already relegated into Division 4 back then. But I managed to play the last game of the season as a 16-year-old.
Wow.
So
was that overwhelming? Was it exciting?
It just flew by.
Yeah.
I mean, I think...
Did you play the full game?
Played the whole game, actually kept a clean sheet. It was supposedly the only clean sheet we actually had that season.
Wow.
and we obviously we won as well, and I think it might have even been the only away win. Admittedly, Rotherham, because we played at Rotherham, I think most of their players had their flip-flops and their Speedos on ready for the old deck chairs on holiday. but for a 16-year-old to go and get a clean sheet and win,
it's incredible,
it was a fantastic something that will obviously stay with me forever.
Yeah. And so then were you doing things the other way round at that point? So you were living in Pompey and then going back home to see your family at weekends?
After the games, whatever game I played in, if it was a youth team or the reserves, I would, when possible, shoot back to London.
Yeah.
But as time sort of went on, that got less and less, and my connections with everyone back in London sort of started to fall away a little bit.
Everyone kind of goes into their own career paths and marriage and babies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had a girlfriend, obviously, now you mention it. So that was half the draw to go back, but even at 16, 17, long distance relationship wasn't going to last. And once that sort of fell by the wayside, and there wasn't much real reason for me to go back.
And so you ended up playing and staying with Pompey for decades. Did you ever go anywher and come back, or was it just a complete clear path?
Well, I don't know how long you've got, but I mean, just prior to actually signing as a 16-year-old, I could have signed for West Ham.
Okay.
West Ham come in for me, which was a little bit complicated because I was a West Ham supporter. Yeah. My granddad and my dad were originally from the East End, moved to the south of London after the war because there was building houses for veterans and stuff like that. Yeah. So there was a big pull for me to go. Well, I say there was a big pull. To be honest, my dad and my family never put me under any pressure. But West Ham did come in for me. Ron Greenwood, who was the director of football then, come and saw Jimmy Dickinson. And they offered £30,000 for me, who Jimmy actually accepted. But Ray Crawford, who was my youth team manager, come in and said, no, he's not going anywhere, and said, I'm staying.
Oh, wow. Did you ever know the reason behind that?
Well, Crawford seemed to think that I would end up being first team keeper for Portsmouth, and he wanted me to stay here.
Yeah.
Jimmy only did it because Jimmy had taken over from St John,
Right.
didn't really know me, and the club, as per usual, were in some financial difficulty, and they thought, well, 15-year-old lad, 30 grand,
Yeah.
happy days. But that fell by the wayside. Nothing really happened, and then I think people were probably bored of my story, but there's also the story of when I nearly went to Arsenal when I was in my 20s, when Alan Ball was manager. But again, that one fell away because the chairman at the time wanted too much money.
Yeah, and we're not bored. By the way. Not at all, not at all.
Well, sorry.
We've been looking forward to getting you in, and I actually haven't told anybody that we've got you coming in, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing the support that everyone has. I'm sure there's loads of people out there dying to hear your story, for sure. And so Pompey became home for you. So that, you know, you've even past the football, you've stayed here. And we will steer away from the football at some point. However, it's obviously a very important part of your history. What would you say was your most memorable, I guess, favourite moment of your time with Pompey Football Club?
Well, there's been some really good ones, and after I've been asked that question before, I've always said whatever I've said, and then I think, oh, what about that time?
That's nice.
I mean, the one would obviously, I mean, all the promotion seasons have memorable moments, but I think the FA Cup run to the semi-final against Liverpool and being so close was obviously bittersweet in lots of ways, but just that group of players, as I say, the seasons under Alan Ball where we just missed out on promotion a couple of times, and then to finally get promoted, and then the following season when we got promoted, the club, I won't blame the chairman, the club didn't invest in staying in the league. Okay. I broke my cheekbone at Wimbledon. Ouch. And after all those years of finally getting there, the next season, whilst we were there, was a bit of a nightmare. But to answer your question, probably the FA Cup, the runs, the games running up to that, the games against Forest, the game against Forest, here, 2 games against Middlesbrough, the draw here, and then going there and beating them at their place.
The energy must have been just palpable.
And that's the city itself just took off. And
the energy.
Massively, yeah.
How did you break the cheekbone?
That was at Wimbledon, and it wasn't John Fashanu. My mum thought it was because she fronted him up in the players' bar afterwards, bless her. But it was Eric Young. And I think everyone, there's a run, well, it's a fact, but I wasn't the greatest at coming for crosses, if I'm being brutally honest. But Alan Ball wound the team up and wound me up. You got to come, we're going to, it's good against evil because of the direct play that Wimbledon used to play. Yeah. So Wimbledon used to have they used to bombard you basically, and you had Fashanu, they had Eric Young. And anyway, they had a free kick in their half. Dave Besant would smash it towards our penalty spot. I come running out, straight out to come and catch it. Yeah. Eric Young and Fashanu run across you, and they come with their elbows up. Admittedly, it's not an elbow to do, but they're coming across they'd say to protect themselves. Yeah. But I run straight into the elbow as he ran across and shattered my socket and my cheekbone. And the referee didn't even blow up. They carried on playing.
Oh my goodness, as you do. So, was that the sort of one and only injury that you had throughout your career?
A couple of things on my knuckles where it dropped, that's goalkeeping hazard. But I was very lucky. I didn't have many really serious ones apart from the cheekbone.
Yeah. What's life like post-football? Because I imagine football is obviously one of those sports. Well, you're an athlete, right? So it's very regimented, like what you eat, what you drink, how you sleep, really, really regimented. So when that's all kind of taken away, how does one cope with that change?
Not very well. Yeah. If I'm being brutally honest. The way you explained it is football now. Back when I started, I had a shock. Yeah. When I was a kid and I had my mates, and as you are as a 14, 15-year-olds. You're having parties.
Living
Back
your best
then, you used to
life,
have Watney's party 7 beers, getting smashed and what have you. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to be a footballer. I'm not drinking. I'm not smoking. I signed as an apprentice, and within a year, I was drinking. I was smoking.
Really? Oh wow.
The drink culture was, if you didn't drink, didn't get that team spirit. It was a play hard, work hard. The thing around it was you did have rules as a professional footballer back then. You couldn't drink 2 days. I know some people said or seem to think they saw me in the pub a day before a game, but that isn't true. But yeah, drinking was a big part of
the culture.
The culture and being a professional footballer back then. And the consequences of that for me, unfortunately, were massive. I mean, as you said, I finished my career and I was around about 36, 37. Alan Ball offered me to be a goalkeeper coach.
Amazing.
And I took that role. And if I'm being brutally honest, I transitioning from player, missing that buzz of playing, that adrenaline buzz, I struggled with it. And the club, to be honest, fair play to them, give me a job as a goalie coach. I wasn't a very good coach. My drinking was spiralling.
Yeah.
I didn't have those rules and
to kind of keep you
boundaries.
on some kind of straight and narrow.
Yeah, and so I could be drinking on a Friday night, or could be away games. I'd be with the staff and we'd be getting drunk and stuff like that. So that's when my drinking did spiral. Yeah. After I'd finished.
It's like filling those gaps, isn't it? Really, of time. And I suppose, like you said yourself, when you were, part of the team and you were playing, yes, you would indulge, but you'd also have those boundaries because you'd have to play. Whereas now you're a spectator, right? Yeah. So you don't need to have any of those boundaries.
No, there's no rules, no boundaries.
Yeah.
And as I said, my drinking had spiralled, and it was affecting what I was doing, and I wasn't doing what I was meant to be doing very well. Yeah. If I'm being brutally honest, I had It didn't fulfil me coaching. It's better than the real world, and I'll come to that possibly in a minute. But I was a little bit bitter about the way my having to finish playing and stuff like that.
And it's that high, isn't it? It's being on that high and then not, you know, and getting those adrenaline rushes and then not, and it's. Like the endorphins and stuff, it can turn into what we now know to be like a chemical imbalance, right? Yeah. Which just wasn't necessarily at the forefront of people's thought processes back then. When it comes to the fact that, you did spiral, was there a moment where you kind of hit rock bottom and kind of had a bit of a light bulb moment?
Massive. For me, as I said, there was a 10-year period where I was in the madness, for want of a better way of putting it. Yeah. My drinking has caused a few issues. I made some very bad decisions on a lot of things, and I won't go into that because it involves other people, and I wouldn't want to bring them into that. But I made some very bad decisions. As I said, my drinking had become unmanageable. I did do the old. I left and coached out in America for a year.
Wow.
And things seemed to settle down. Different culture, different everything out there in Dallas. And the first 6 months were fantastic. Then the wheels started to fall off a little bit. My appendix burst. Wow. I didn't have Medicare in place. No one knew where I was for a week.
Wow.
And it just all sort of went a little bit wrong. And on the footballing side, though I had actually started to enjoy it there, we got beat in the playoffs again. And Colin Clark, who was the head coach, unfortunately got fired. They did ask me to stay, but I was missing my daughters. Yeah. So I decided to come back. But I come back, and this is where I spoke about it a little bit earlier. the real world really did smack me in the face there.
Really?
My reputation had preceded me coming back, where my drinking, where I wasn't reliable, this, that and the other. And then I had to get a job in the real world.
Right.
And I had no qualifications, nothing at all. Thankfully, a good friend of mine, Lee Jackson Groundworks, gave me a job as a ground worker, unskilled.
Wow.
Didn't even know how to hold a shovel,
Yeah.
let alone a broom.
That must have been like such a culture shock.
Yeah, I was working on the A3 up at Waterlooville.
Yeah.
People used to come past bibbing at me and saying, where did it all go wrong and stuff like that. So I had to endure stuff like that. But I weren't very good at, and obviously I was working with lads, obviously having to get up at 5, done it all their lives. And total respect for everyone who works
in that industry.
Excuse me. So I wasn't reliable, I weren't very good, got laid off at various jobs, and things really did start to spiral even more. I moved back into Pompey, and although it sounds great, and I could go into pubs and people would be buying me drinks just to listen to a story.
Yeah.
And just to say they'd been with me, and I was, and that's, as you said, I was in the pub in Pompey.
And that's nice, right? But it doesn't pay the bills and it doesn't help your mental health and stuff, right?
Not at all, no.
Momentarily, maybe, right?
Well, people might think it sounds fantastic, but it's hell.
Yeah.
And I know, as weird as that sounds, it was hell. And it ended up with me in a pub in Cobner one evening, literally breaking down, sobbing. Again, another long story short from there, I ended up being picked up by my ex-brother-in-law and a friend of mine, an ex-goalkeeper at Pompey, who was my understudy, Trevor Inch. They come pick me up, and lucky enough I got the chance to go to Sporting Chance through the PFA and Sporting Chance, the rehab place up at Chapney, or at the back of Chapney's in Liphook, the place that Tony Adams basically founded.
Right.
And I got assessed, and I was allowed to get in and do a 26-day residential rehab there.
Amazing.
And it's like you're saying, I went in there, I thought they were going to teach me to be able to drink like a gentleman. But
were they like zero?
That soon
Yeah.
become quite obvious that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And then I was able to have that light bulb moment when I realised everything. They take you through the steps and the AA side of stuff, and I did literally had that light bulb moment. It was like the whole room lit up.
Wow.
It was like Technicolor, and realised that everything I had done revolved around drinking, and how I'd put drink first to everything, to my family, to my daughters, to everyone.
It's so common though, isn't it? It's a struggle that I think so many people have behind closed doors and in front of the closed doors. You know, it's especially British culture, right? It's just it's prevalent everywhere. And so you went in for 26 days, had that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
And then was life then on the up from there?
Well, there's a thing through AA, and there's the promises, and it speaks how things will sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but financial insecurities and stuff like that, I should know it off by heart, but I don't, sorry. And when I first read it, I thought, that's never going to happen to me. I'm now whatever I was in late 40s, whatever. That's never going to happen for me. But as I said, I come out, I went back, I worked as back at ground working. I was working at Heathrow. I started to get tickets to drive snow ploughs, this, that and the other. I was reliable, I was turning up.
Well done.
And that was taken off. Then, a really weird thing, as I said, the things that happened, Pompey were going into administration.
Yeah, I remember that,
Guy Whitnam and Andy Orford, two of my ex-teammates, had taken over the side. And I was 5 o'clock in the morning in the minibus driving to Heathrow, and Guy Whitnam rang me and said, Al, John Keeley's left to go to Blackburn, he was the goalie coach.
Right.
They said, would you be interested to fill in while we take over, and whether the club, because by then they had to go to the High Court to see if the supporters could take it, the trust could take over the club. And I thought, well, yeah, it's got to be better than digging holes, even though...
I see where you're going with this. So the coaching stuff, when you first went into it, it was like, oh, no, it's not for me, and you were not in the right frame of mind. And then you go into groundworks, and then the coaching thing's offered to you again, and actually that's like a dream come true in comparison to the real world that you, as you word it.
No, definitely.
I love that.
The funny thing is, I did go back into it, saw out that season, and had a fantastic time, because you talk about a good time. I had a fantastic time because the club were under embargoes, but the crowd were massively behind everyone. And just towards the end of the season, the trust were given ownership of the club, and there was the game. So everything was going really well. And then end of season, I was offered the full-time role as goalie coach.
Amazing.
I took it on, but the game had evolved. It wasn't so much, and I still weren't a very good coach. If I'm being brutally honest, I still weren't a very good coach.
Would other people say that about you, or is that you just kind of beating yourself up?
There might be a couple of...
What was it like, patience? Is it like having that patience with people?
It was... that's a difficult one. The game had evolved. It had evolved, and I was a dinosaur.
Right.
Especially with goalkeeping. Goalkeeping over the years, even from when I was playing with the back pass rule, but now there's this got to play out from the back stuff that they all do, which is fine. But I knew I wasn't right for it. And again, I'm not pointing fingers at individuals. So things weren't going great in the goalkeeping side of things at the club at the early start of that season. And I was pulled in. In fact, it's quite funny actually. Guy went and pulled me in because he took on the role full time, and I was out doing my UEFA B badge, and I got called in to be. A guy said, "Can I meet you at the Hilton at Farlington?" And the running joke is when you're called in for one of those meetings, it's never going to be good. So I sat down. Guy had gone, "Well, Al, it's not really working out, is it?" But I went, "Well, no. To be honest, you're probably right." They said, "Well, what happens now?" I said, "Because am I back at Heathrow tomorrow?"
What's doing the groundworks.
I said, "I didn't want to make it because it was awkward enough for Guy being a teammate and a friend anyway." So he went, "No. The club, Mr. McGuinness, the chairman, and Mark Catlin, the CEO, they want you to take on the role as ambassador."
Oh wow!
So I went, "Well, what's an ambassador do?" So no one seemed to be able to answer that too much. But to be honest, fair play to Miss McGuinness and Mark. They both said, "Look, you can mould that to how you want it to be."
Yeah, like they can see that you add value.
And that's how they saw it. And then I worked alongside Claire at Community, got involved with the guys there. Claire Martin. Paul Allen, who was there, who's doing a lot of stuff with the guys in recovery. He now works for Refit, does stuff with Refit and stuff like that. So that got me involved in and around the recovery side of people in Pompey, and that really was, for me, was a great trigger to
You found your niche kind of thing. You found the area that worked for you.
And as I say, everything seemed to be falling into place, and that's on a professional side, and on the side, on personal life side, I was starting to get a relationship with my daughters again, which I'd almost completely destroyed, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, well done. Well done for getting there, obviously, not for anything, you know what I mean?
And so there was those things and everything seemed to be starting to come falling into place. So that was great doing that. Then I got the chance to do some work alongside the guys up at Sporting Chance, where I obviously went into rehab, so I get involved with them up there as well. Amazing. So that's great for me in my recovery. as I say, and now I'm 16 years sober. So
Wow.
so
That's
for me,
incredible.
I never thought that would happen. I've got to be honest.
And do you ever miss it?
No,
No, not at all.
not one little bit.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest. I have the occasional, and it isn't missing drinking, and don't miss the
Hangovers and the mess
and the chaos that comes with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes on the socially side, but no, I don't miss it. And the thing that I do miss is smoking.
Yeah.
Wow, I could quite easily. I'm 10 years without a cigarette, but that was a real tough one to give up.
My father-in-law, he says that he's not smoked now for 37 years.
Yeah.
He's about to turn 70.
Easy.
And he does still have a drink, but he's like, he says every time I have a sip of that point, I could just imagine sparking up a fag. And he's never done it, but he still misses it. It's crazy,
I miss a cigarette.
Isn't it crazy to think that you used to be able to like smoke on the football pitches and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there were times, some of the lads might tell you when, not all the time, a couple of times when coming at half time and if the manager at the time was having a rant and a rave, I'd go off into the toilet and I'd have a fag. I'd have a fag at half time.
Like you couldn't imagine it now, could you? Obviously,
no, there'd be fits.
They might be in there. Well, I couldn't even imagine them like vaping and stuff. To be honest, I think it would just be so like looked down upon, wouldn't it? But it's like you say, it's so different now. It's
back
such
then,
a different world.
lots of players did smoke.
Yeah, it was just part and parcel.
And they would light up straight after the game in the dressing room.
Amazing though, isn't it? You can have that fitness level despite it. And what's your opinion on, I'm going to try and get this right now, VAR? Is it VAR?
VAR, yeah. I think it needs to be quickened up, if that's the right way. And I think sometimes you've just got to go with what the referee says.
Yeah. And I say it because my husband's an avid football supporter. He went down with Duke actually to see a Pompey game on Saturday, and just the amount of times that he moans about the VAR, and I'm like, I'm not a massive. Yeah. I understand football. Don't ask me what the offside rule is. I kind of get it. I kind of don't.
Well, you're not. Well, after people on VAR can't work.
Well, there you go, and that's his point. I think that's his point. Is like the amount of ag that it adds to the game.
It's complicated.
Yeah, and he's like, just listen to the ref.
Some of the black and white stuff should be left to that VAR. But now you're going to someone in a studio in London, and then you're going from whatever might be the referee's interpretation to whatever the interpretation of these two or three guys out in wherever they are in London. So it just leaves a long time. I know they're on about tightening the bits and bobs up now, and the offside rule is going to be. They've got an automated system, I believe, that's coming in. That will tell you straight away.
Really?
Allegedly.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. Because even when I do watch a bit of football, usually if it's like the World Cup or the Euros or something, if England are playing, and it stops that momentum, you know, and you just want to keep going, and it kind of faffs all of that up. But am I right in saying that you were awarded an MBE?
Yes.
What was that like?
I thought it was a wind-up.
Really?
Yeah, long story short.
Yeah.
At the time, just a year before, on April Fool's Day, I played a joke on Big Kev, the kit man.
Right.
Me and Karen Barnett, who was the club's the manager's secretary, managed to do a tax return, do it all properly, and said that he owed, I don't know, 2 or 3 grand for doing this, that, or the other. Yeah. So that got sent off, and it didn't go down very well. It sort of backfired.
Oh wow!
He wasn't very happy, and I do apologise to Sarah, his wife, because I didn't realise it would go back to. He obviously rang her in a panic, and it went a little bit wrong. Okay. So not long after that, I received a letter looking all proper from Downing Street. It was Tony Blair, actually. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but on his thing for the New Year's honours list, saying I'd got an MBE. And I went, yeah, good one, Kev. You've got me here. So I had to go to the club secretary for him to say, no, it was... Wow. So, no, great honour. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not a great royalist, but I'm very patriotic. I love playing for my country at youth and under 23 level. So to get it was lovely, and meeting the Queen. She was very nice.
Yeah, what an experience, right? Like you say, even if you're not a royalist, if you're patriotic and you're, you know, it's part of English culture, isn't it?
Yeah,
British
no,
culture.
I mean, a great honour. I'm not, but yeah.
Because you're not one of these that uses it though, really, are you? Like, you don't have your MBE thing on your social media or anything like that?
No, on me, I think I got told to put it on me emails.
Yeah.
But no, I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't try and big it up too much. No.
I think that says a lot about you though, and your character, right? For sure.
Well, maybe I'm embarrassed now, so maybe that proves it.
Oh, he's blushing. He's actually blushing. Alan Knight MBE. Don't forget it. So I know that life recently has obviously taken a bit of a turn in with regards to your health.
Yeah.
Hope you don't mind us just kind of bringing some awareness to that a little bit.
Yeah.
So am I right in saying that you were diagnosed with prostate cancer?
Yeah, prostate cancer, which has spread into my pelvis and lymph node.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, that one was a real big...
Shocker.
It was, because I'd had 2 hip replacements.
Right.
Inside of a year. And then the second one, I was getting some pains that I didn't... which was different to the first one, but I just thought, oh, it's something to do with that. I had trouble going to the loo, wanting to go to the loo a lot. And I thought I had a urinary infection or something like that. But I was sort of like fobbing it off. Yeah. Thinking it was something to do with that. Never even thought about prostate cancer.
Did that go on, that fobbing it off period, which I think a lot of us do, right?
Yeah.
Did that go on for quite a while? Are we talking weeks, months?
Yeah, and even possibly before, looking back now.
Hindsight, yeah.
But I just didn't, there's not enough for me, for enough info for men on the prostate cancers. And sometimes there are no side effects or no signs, no.
Yeah.
So, as I said, but just by chance, I went into my, I had to go for a pre-diabetes check that I have every blood test every year.
Right.
And I'd gone in, I'd spoken to a friend of mine, Trevor Inch, and he had a friend that had prostate cancer, and he said, get a PSA test, because there's always the fear for the blokes, because it was always the examination.
Yeah, of course.
With the finger, and all blokes sort of scrub.
I mean, I think it's the same with women, but I think that the smear tests and things that we have to have is spoken about more, I think.
Women are a lot braver, if that's the right word, and more. Yeah. So anyway, so I was speaking to the nurse, and I said, look, PSA test. I said, I've explained to her about having to use the loo, because that weekend, I went in on Monday. That weekend, I was up every hour, on the hour, all over the weekend.
What, going to the toilet?
Yeah, getting up. And she said, well, I can do a PSA test for you. I went, oh, great, terrific. So she took that, didn't think much of it. Then on the Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call from my doctor. The secretary said, oh, Mr. Knight, I've forgotten his name now, sorry. But anyway, doctor said, can you come in? Dr. Stanley, sorry. Yeah. Can you come in? 10 o'clock. I went, oh, yeah, didn't think too much. Yeah, great. Yeah, I'll see you at 10. So I go in, I think it's about me diabetes, not even thinking about the PSA. Right. I'd forgotten I'd even had that. Yeah. So I went in, saw the doc, went, yeah, Mr. Knight, your PSA's come back and you've scored 31.7. And I'm like, well... What
does that mean?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Is that good or bad? Well,
yeah.
He said, well, anything above sort of 8 is...
Oh, wow.
I went, oh. He said, so are you okay for me to give you an examination? I went, well, yeah. So he did that. And then whilst he was doing that, he sort of went,
Oh, wow.
And I went, that don't sound good. And he went, no. He said, your prostate's grossly enlarged. I went, wow. He said, I'm going to put you on a fast track suspected cancer referral. Wow. And so now my jaws hitting the ground, thinking I've come in here thinking I've got diabetes,
And
and
it's
I've
just
got been on about cancer.
Yeah.
So I've had to come out of there, and as I say, my head's up my backside, and I'm thinking I've got to ring Heather, my wife, and explain to her. So that was difficult. That obviously what had been said.
Yeah.
And fair play from that moment on, from having a referral with chatting to someone in oncology, urology, having CT scan, bone scan, MRI, and a biopsy was done really quickly.
Really? NHS?
Yeah, up at QA,
Yeah.
they were fantastic.
Amazing.
Ran me through as quick as, but the wait. Then there was the wait, which was a good
for the
month
results of
for the
everything.
results of everything.
Because don't they tend to? They then kind of each department kind of comes together.
They come together, yeah.
And it's getting them in a room together to then
And
discuss
they
your case.
decide what you're going. So then I'm bumped up to, I'll get my oncology and my urology mixed up. So I've gone to oncology, see Mr. Manaman. Well, the first diagnosis, was in urology when the guy said, you've got prostate cancer and it has spread into your hip, so you're stage 4. And it's not curable, and then I've zoned out again, and thankfully I've got Heather with me, and she's listening to what the guy's saying more than I am, and what might go forward. Then I had to go on to see the guy in oncology, Mr. Manaman, who then spoke about what my treatment would be and how we were going to go about that.
It must just be like a cloud, like you say, when you kind of zone out.
It's a very, people talk about things being surreal and being in sort of like out-of-body experience, because it was just happening, and I just...
Do you still feel like that now?
A little bit. I mean, because obviously they said like the treatment will be, I have to have hormone treatment for the rest of my life, which means I have an injection in my stomach every 28 days.
Okay.
And they are sore.
Really?
I find them quite sore if I'm going to have a moan about anything.
So you have to have it administered every
Administered, I have
yeah.
to go, yeah. So that's every 28 days. I've got mine next Tuesday, actually. Not looking forward to that. But then I have to have tablets alongside that daily. That's to kill the testosterone, to stop the testosterone in my body, which the cancer feeds off.
Right.
So that side of it, I'm fully into that. Then I had to have chemo, which I finished last week. That was to hopefully go for the hip or pelvis and lymph node to try and hopefully put that into remission and stop it spreading.
Yeah.
And then I've got radiotherapy to come in the next few weeks. 20 sessions of that over 4 weeks.
How are you feeling about that?
I'm okay. As I said, I've put my trust. I mean, they've been great up there. They've been brilliant.
Yeah.
When even through the chemo, I think I was lucky. I've had obviously bits of side effects and taste buds and bits and bobs going on, but I think I've been reasonably lucky, because I know some have got to have a lot more severe chemo than I've had, and some find it a lot harder. So, but I've just put my trust in the consultants, the doctors and nurses. I mean, they work so hard up there, and they're overrun and understaffed.
Yeah, and I think people are quick to moan, right? People are quick to moan, but not quick enough to give credit where credit's due.
A couple of people I've heard had a moan, and I think everyone's journey's possibly a little bit different, and they expect probably a little bit different to what they got. But I can't, at the moment, I can't grumble or have a bad word to say about anyone up there. And as I said, I'm possibly, for lots of people call me a grumpy old man anyway, but I've been quite upbeat about what's going on. There's no what's
and I know that you've been doing your best as well to like spread awareness, and I think that actually having someone who's such a prominent figure in our community going through what you're going through, it's actually really brought light to a really important topic. If there was any sort of advice that you would give men in relation to being tested and things like that, what would that be?
Definitely get it done. It's now just a blood test.
Okay.
And if you've got a history of the family, if you're 40 and a black man, you're more susceptible.
Okay.
Black guys are.
And so what you're saying is that this kind of, I guess, I don't want to call it a myth because it's facts, but the way in which we would often look at prostate being tested with the finger up the bum type thing, that it doesn't have to start there anymore.
No, it doesn't. No, it starts with a blood test.
Okay,
now.
okay.
So you don't have to worry about that. It's just a simple blood test. Take 2 minutes to be done. And if I think it's 50-year-old they're talking about for white blokes, but if you're a history 40, but get it done.
Yeah.
Just get it done because it's, as you said, I'm now, because I wouldn't have thought about it. Only by chance I did it.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit late to get it done as well because now obviously it's spread.
Yeah.
But
so it makes the journey that little bit.
If you can keep it,
harder, right?
If you keep it while it's within the prostate, then you've got a chance. You won't die of prostate cancer. You'll die with it. That's what I was told.
Right.
But once it spreads, then you've got a bit of a problem.
Okay.
But treatments are getting better and better all the time. So the earlier you can get it,
the better.
The better. As you said, my journey, and I want that to get out to people because if I'd known, then maybe the outcome might have been a little bit better. But also for anyone with a lump, bump, men, women,
just
get it tested. Don't feel bad. I mean, I can't believe, going back to the prostate cancer, that there's not a national screening for men.
Yeah.
And there's all this stuff.
So there is. So what you mean by that is that, so for women, you hit 25, I think it is, and you have your first smear test, and then you have it every 5 years thereafter. I have to have it every year because mine keeps coming back abnormal. I have to have biopsies, blah blah blah. But touch wood, we're good at the moment. Yeah. But for men with prostate screening, a man would have to pick up the phone and do it yourself, as opposed to getting a letter automatically through the door saying you now need to come. And
there can be some pushback from certain surgeries from all sorts. So that they go, oh, well, do you really? So, but there's a lot of stuff going with Prostate Cancer UK. Down at the John Pounds the other week, they did some testing there.
Yeah.
I know the club are looking to get behind it, and we're hoping to be able to do some testing again.
Amazing.
At some stage going
Just show forward. The simplicity of it, right? Show that, it's important, but also the simplicity of the process to kind of maybe eliminate some of that fear. Because I think it was Jade Goody when she passed away of cervical cancer, and it was that coming into the forefront that then changed the smear test being, I think it was age 30, and it was pushed back to 25.
And you got the BBC percent of I'm terrible with names, that died of bowel cancer.
Bowel cancer, yeah.
And the what she managed to do.
Yeah.
Going back to, bring it back to prostate cancer, you got Chris Hoy at the moment, who's got similar to me at stage 4.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for him, it seems to have been in different parts of his body. It's spread a little bit more. But I mean, the awareness, and I say any lumps, bumps, or anything that I think in the end. And now I think back, I knew something wasn't right, but I had no idea exactly what it was.
Yeah, but sometimes life can be really chaotic, right? Like when you're working and you've got your friends, you've got your family, you've probably got your daughters, your grandchildren or whatever, like you just, we're quick to make excuses, I think. Like, oh, I'll deal with that next week, or I'll deal with that next month,
Definitely, I mean, and we're put other things in front of probably looking after ourselves. And you need to take some time out for yourself and look after yourself, because I think that's just human nature. But if you end up falling to bits, then
what is there? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to take it down a notch, and I am going to ask you some quick fire questions to round us up today. So one of the first things that I want to ask you, Alan, is what would you say is the most politely rebellious thing you've ever done?
Politely rebellious thing I've ever done. I suppose politely rebellious was me leaving the club.
Yeah.
At the time, and
Let me ask you the
I
question.
played well. I think they weren't too upset at the time that I was going, but I suppose politely rebellious was me going, well, up yours, I'm off to the States, I'm going to make it out there.
Yeah.
But that didn't last very long.
No, but you had your moment,
I had
and we're
that
all
moment.
allowed our moments.
Yeah. No, I suppose that would be I suppose that would be the biggest one. Yeah.
I love that. Right, so I'm going to ask you now some quick fire questions. There's no right or wrong answers.
Okay.
Baked beans or no baked beans?
No baked beans.
Really? Just never been a fan?
They're not much. I will eat them if it was when I'm having a mixed grill in where do we go? We normally have a mixed grill and they ask beans or peas, so I would pick beans over peas.
Right, but like if you're having a cooked breakfast or jacket potato,
I would probably have tomatoes.
Really?
Rather than
like
beans.
Plum tomatoes or fresh tomatoes?
Prefer fresh,
Yeah.
but plum are okay.
Fair enough. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Yeah.
But I'm having to cut down because I've got to be drinking more water coming up to this. But coffee, yeah.
Coffee. And are you a like black coffee man, or do you like a cheeky latte or something?
I'm a bit of a cappuccino one, but now I'm putting all this weight on. I've got to pack in the milk. So I will have the occasional miracle.
And is the weight gain because of the treatment?
I believe the weight gain, well, I don't know if I'm conning myself or mugging myself off, but I think it's to do with the steroids at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's my excuse. And I'm just started weaning myself off the steroids.
Okay.
So hopefully in a week, 2, I will be able to. And people keep taking me out for breakfast.
Oh, really?
People are killing me with kindness.
Oh,
I'm having 2 or 3 breakfasts
and
a
the
day.
hash browns and
all that, and no beans.
No beans, and very minimal coffee. Yogurt or ice cream?
Ice cream.
What flavour?
Oh, I would probably go strawberry.
Oh, I love a bit of strawberry ice cream. Num. Music or movie?
Music.
Yeah, what's your favourite?
Well, I've got a real weird sort of spectrum of music. So at the moment, I've gone a little bit Luther Vandross again.
Oh, nice.
Because I watched there was a CNN documentary about him, and I found that really interesting. So a bit Luther, but I'll swing from Hall and Oates, Luther, a bit of Celine Dion, all sorts. I'll go and even music from the Greatest Showman and stuff like that.
Did you watch the documentary about Celine Dion recently? And Celine Dion and her
I didn't know. My wife watched it.
Yeah, really emotional.
She told me it was quite
very emotional. Yeah.
So I've gone off that. But her voice, I love her voice.
Yeah, she's incredible, isn't she? And when you're just chilling around at home, slippers or socks?
Socks.
Yeah.
Yeah, socks.
You're not a slipper man. No moccasins.
I've got a pair. No, I end up just can't be bothered to go upstairs and put them on.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm just lazy.
And what would you say, the future holds for you for the rest of this year? What's the kind of, I know treatment's obviously a really big focus. Have you got any bucket list things, I guess, that you're looking at?
No, there is some things that, as I said, I've got me radiotherapy to go through, but everything at the moment is I've got a few scans, got CT and a bone scan to have, and then I've got middle of April, I go in to find out how it's all gone on.
Okay.
So everything focuses on that. And I mean, whatever happens from that, I'll be looking to go and have a lovely holiday.
Go chill.
And then work out whatever the outcome is and go from there.
See what the process is.
Just be as positive about whatever way it goes. Really.
Yeah, amazing. Well, we're all rooting for you, and I really appreciate you coming by to tell us about your story and to raise some awareness of prostate. It's really, really important, and I just really appreciate your time.
No, it's been a pleasure and an honour to do my first one as well.
Yay!
So
Podcast virginity gone.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely.